like we got a quorum. Folks from all the right directors and staff entities. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Hello?
Are you guys streaming?
Yeah, he's waiting to sit down.
Make sure you can see it. I can't see it anywhere, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Okay.
And you said Twitter goes by itself.
What's that?
I'm very political.
Recording in progress.
There you go. All right, good afternoon, everybody. What a tough day on Saturday to battle like our guys did, especially in the second half. Really proud of the effort of our team. It certainly just wasn't enough to get the job done. Boston College, I thought, played a really great football game. The way they ran the football against us really stands out. 299 yards, a lot of yards rushing. Frankly, pretty envious of that and the way they were able to run the football. They made the stops when they needed to. They certainly did a great job in the first half of keeping us out of the end zone. We had the one shot down there in the first half. We had to settle for a field goal, and twice they had really long drives to set up scores for themselves, and including the last one. They just methodically took it down the field on us and converted on fourth down and made the plays that they needed to. So credit to Boston College, Coach Halfley, and the job he did with the team. And so obviously that's a well-respected program, and for us, the second Power 5 game in a row. And it's challenging. It's hard to win a college football game, but certainly those teams at the very highest level are a great challenge for us and for everybody else that plays in the group of 5. And so we were excited to have that opportunity, and really close. I wish we could have found a way. Unfortunately, we didn't. So move on this week to Troy, who is one of the best football teams in the country. They have been as successful as anybody in the last 2 years, and Coach Summerall's just doing an awesome job. We won 12 games and won the league last year, and they're off to a great start again this season, and playing great defense. Coach Gasparotto, who's their defensive coordinator, was here in our program as the co-DC for a year, and he just does a great job. And great job. So they get some really outstanding receivers, athletic, and it posed a lot of problems for us. And in a lot of ways, maybe the most challenging opponent we've had so far this year. So we got some work to do to get ready for them. And our guys are excited to play at home and have an opportunity to redeem themselves after losing these last couple in a row. So hopefully we'll play well. We're going to have to play well and play a team that beat us a year ago at their place in a great battle.
Go ahead, Rich.
Hey, Coach. Rich DeMarco, Army Radio. If you had to distill a couple of things from the BC game that are the most important things for your team to work on this week, what would they be?
So I think sustaining blocks is one thing that just in terms of finding overall things to work on, and that's up front, that's on the perimeter. To me, that's where the game is won. If you can, on offense, if you can block people and sustain the blocks and keep them from getting off those blocks and getting the ball carrier, you get a much better chance to move the football. We've got to do that better. Defensively, block destruction, just like on offense. Maintaining blocks, you got to get off the blocks on defense, but tackling and being very effective and efficient there. We hit far too many yards after contact on Saturday. In fact, over half the yards they gained were after contact, after somebody put their hand on them or attempted a tackle, and that's far too many. So we just got to do a better job with being terminating tacklers. That has something to do with the opponent. They got athletic guys that are strong and powerful, but technique and fundamentals will help us there. So obviously we'll focus on those two things and get better at those. There's several things to work on, but those are two I think fundamental elements that need to continue to be addressed.
And Jeff, what would you say about the resilience of your team? What they've shown you through the years and even this year. What would you say about your team's resilience?
These guys are tough, and they're mentally tough. And like any human being, when they suffer a loss or a failure, there's disappointment, there's discouragement. It's human nature. I'm discouraged, I'm disappointed. But what our team hasn't done is allow that to affect their attitude, to come out to work and get better, and the effort that they put in. Our guys are playing the game really hard. They care deeply about each other. They care deeply about this program. And winning's important. It's important here. It's important in the Army. It matters to our guys more than just they want to win. I think our guys are willing to do the things that it takes to win, and they continue to show that with the way they practice and the attention to detail that they display in fundamental work and just the speed that they play the game and they try to play physical, and that doesn't mean other teams aren't physical and play the game fast, but our guys try to do that. So in that way they are resilient, and they're not going to cash it in. There's a lot of football left to play, not a lot to play for. So they know that, and we're excited for the next opportunity.
Thanks, Coach.
Go ahead, Ken.
Hey Jeff, Ken McMillan, Times Herald Record. Jeff, to follow on Rich's question, how would you gauge the team's reaction come Sunday? Because having a win ripped from them in the final minute is really hard to bounce back from.
Yeah, it's hard to bounce back from that. I mean, like I said, it's human nature to be disappointed and discouraged. But our guys came back ready to work. They did a great job. The first thing they do when they walk in the building on Sunday is they've got a lift, and they're required to be there. The young guys come in first, and the veterans come in after that, and they get a lift, and that was very positive and very spirited. And then we come to meetings, we have a team meeting, and we kind of talk through the game, and then we go to special teams position meetings, and we can look at the things that we did on Saturday that were positive, look at the things that were negative, learn from it. And again, you don't have the same pep in your step when you lose. If you do, then you're a loser. Winners are gonna be disappointed. Winners are gonna be discouraged. Winners are gonna be down. And, losing stinks. It doesn't matter how it happens. Losing stinks. And for a winner, it's hard to live with. It's difficult to conjure up excitement and enthusiasm when you just got your butt kicked. It is for me, and it is for the guys on our team that are really invested in care, and I think we got a bunch of guys on this team that are really invested in care. So it's hard to do, but they came in with a great attitude to work and try to get better, take ownership in it, self-evaluate, and look at the things that each one of us, me personally, that I can do better. And I made errors on Saturday. I made an error that was very critical on the timeout, and they had 4th and 3, and they brought their field goal team out there, and we had 11 guys on the field. The guy ran on the field, and then somebody ran off, and I was emotional. I was mad that we had a substitution problem, and their kicker wasn't ready to go. And I knew it as soon as I called the timeout. He wasn't ready to go. He would have time to get off, and I'm ticked at myself. And they had time to think about it. They brought their offense back out. Didn't mean that they needed to get the first down, but they did. And they went on to get 7 points instead of 3. So there's 4 points in the game that I'd like to have back because they won by 3. So there's all things that we can look at and acknowledge that we can do better. And it's my job to position our guys and make the decisions that will give us the best chance to win. And it's the job of every player in here to work on the fundamentals, know his assignments, and get the coaches to teach those assignments and fundamentals so that we can all perform our best. And it's hard to play perfect, but sometimes I feel like we got to play as close to perfect as possible to have a chance to win. And I got to do that job myself, and I try to be perfect, which is a pretty high bar, but I want to do the best I can for this team, and I think every player in here feels that same sense of urgency because I love these players, and these players love each other, and they want to do the best they can. So when they came in here Sunday, though they felt down in the dumps, it's not going to do anybody any good to just spend the day feeling sorry for themselves and not work to get better. So I thought the guys approached it and handled it really well.
Jeff, in the same vein, last year's loss to Troy was also heartbreaking. They ripped it away from you there in the second half. How does that play into this year's game? Is Troy similar to last year? And do you emphasize, I don't know, I hate to use the word revenge, but I mean a motivation to come back at them for what they did to you last year?
No, they won the game last year, and they earned the victory. So revenge that's not a driving force in trying to win a football game. The revenge, you got to execute the fundamentals. You got to execute your assignments. You got to go earn the victory, and we didn't do that a year ago. They did, and so this year we're going to try to earn the victory. We got a lot of different guys on this team that are playing on our team now that weren't playing a year ago. We got some guys that were, and they do too. They got guys that played in that game a year ago, and they got guys that didn't play in that game a year ago. So it's 2 different football teams, and hopefully we can make it a different result. We're going to do our best.
What did you like on your offense on Saturday?
I really liked the job our guys did in the second half. I don't think we played particularly well in the first half on offense. We had 5 drives, and 3 of those were 3 and out. One was a 5 and out, and the other one we were forced to kick a field goal. And we had opportunities to score a touchdown. I thought in the second half they came out with just a real spirit and a determination to be able to run the football and move the football. We did. We made some plays. We scored on the first 3 drives we had it, and then managed to get stopped there on the last one, we had to punt, and they drove down and scored and beat us, but, we needed that one more drive. But I was encouraged with the way that they approached the second half and came out and moved the ball in the second half.
Connor, go ahead on Zoom.
Charles, you sir. Good afternoon, Coach. Charles Peters here with GoBlackKnights.com. Coach, you mentioned the Trojans in your opening statement coming out the gate strong once again, 4-2 mark despite losing in back-to-back season openers, if you will. They're solid on both sides of the ball, very balanced offensive attack, and Watson leading the offense once again, quarterback. And they have a new DC, who I believe is a Nate disciple, and their defense has given up only 10 points last 2 games. Can you compare them to anyone that you faced thus far when it comes to being equally strong and balanced on both offense and defense?
It's hard to compare teams. I don't know how to do that. Each team is unique in what they do defensively and offensively, their schemes, special teams included, which is a huge part of it. Greg Gasparotto is a terrific coach. As I said, he was here in our program for a year. He's got history with Coach Woody, and he's smart. They're aggressive on defense. Being able to hold people to, as you said, 10 points or less that's playing pretty good defense. And so they've played some really strong opponents and done a good job defending. And I have a lot of respect for Greg. And I have a lot of respect for Coach Summerall. He's a defensive coach, and I think his teams really reflect him as a coach. They're physical, they're tough, they play fast, great effort. And so, just in terms of what they do defensively, I don't know how you compare it, but I think they're one of the strongest defenses we've seen this year. And they might be the best. This might be the best team we faced so far this year. Very, very likely. And offensively, to be able to run the football as effectively as they have, and running back, and why wouldn't you? It's very talented players, got a good offensive line, they hand it to him, and when that guy gains 100 yards, they win. And so, obviously, teams have to try to stop the run, we do too, and that, I look at how effective teams are at running the football and stopping the run. Usually, if they're good at those two things, you're going to see a winning record. And that's reflected in our game last week. Our opponent rushed the ball and ran the ball far more effectively than we did. And they stopped us better than we could stop them. And they won the football game. So I think there's a direct correlation to that. Their quarterback's playing better than he ever has in his career. He's been a very successful, very good quarterback, and he's playing his best football right now. So certainly some challenges, but they have a good football team. It's just hard to compare. Syracuse and Boston College play in the same league, and they're different, but both good, solid, tough football teams, and both beat us. I don't know how to compare them.
And my follow-up and final question, as you mentioned following the DC game, it's great to have Terrell back in the lineup, but we're also unsure of the status of wide receiver Isaiah Austin, running back Miles Stewart at this point. Can you provide us with the status as it relates to their availability for Saturday's contest?
Well, we're trying to bring them both around. Miles was injured in the game 2 weeks ago, or I guess the Syracuse game was 3 weeks ago now, going on that, and he's starting to come back around, and he'll be practicing today. Isaiah was hurt in practice the week after the Syracuse game, and we're working as hard as we can to get him ready. Obviously, both those guys are good players. We'd like to have them in the lineup, and just in terms of their return and when that will be, we're uncertain at this point.
Thank you very much. We'll go to Ken.
Hey, good afternoon, Coach. Good to see you. When you look at Troy's defense, the stat that jumps out is 86 yards rushing by opponent
certainly, the rushing stats are glaring to me, and, we talked about it already, just their ability to be able to stop the run, and, Greg, he was here with Coach Woody, and that's one of the things about Coach Woody that I really like, and I'm glad he's our defensive coordinator. He works really hard to be good at defending the run, and most games are won by the team that rushes for more than their opponent. It doesn't happen every time, but games are won between 70 and 80%, depending on the season. All FBS games are won by the team that rushes for at least one more yard than their opponent. So, obviously, holding people under 100 yards a game rushing is a pretty impressive stat, and that puts them among the best in the country. And to have the nation's leading rusher, guy had 1,000 yards last year, and I mean, he's on his way to being well over the 1,100 he had last year, already at 800 and some yards. And he's a really good running back, but obviously having an offensive line to blow those holes open for him, and other backs and tight ends and guys in the box and on the perimeter with their wide receivers, but their quarterback's ability to distribute the ball, the other skill players they have, that loosens up that box. You can put everybody in there and stop the run, and then that guy will pick you apart with the receivers he's got the rest of the day on the perimeter. So you got to play good total defense, but obviously have an emphasis on stopping the run. That's got to be where it starts. Just I think if you look at the percentage and you're going to play money ball, then you better stop the run.
Absolutely, Coach. I just asked about Bryson Daly, 10 of 13, against Boston College. He was completing passes. How did you go over the lateral play? In the post game, he said, he's thinking his keys and he saw the man open to his left. Is that how do you evaluate a play like that afterwards?
It was a forward pass. That was clear after watching the film. And the referee said that I saw it as a forward pass. The guy in the replay booth saw it as a forward pass, and the guy in Charlotte that watches all the plays saw it as a forward pass. So I assumed it was a forward pass at that point. What's unfortunate was we missed an assignment. So the guy that was tackling him, there was two guys on him. The guy on the outside closest to the sideline where he pitched the ball over his head was actually the pitch key. He fell back in on it late, and that's why he was able to toss the ball over his head. But the guy inside of him should have been blocked. And unfortunately, we missed the assignment. And I think probably it turns out a little bit different. That doesn't mean he's not going to pitch the ball out there if the guy falls back in, but he was getting tackled and just tried to make a play. He had already secured the first down, so it was 3rd and 2 at the time, and he gained a couple yards. So even if he got tackled right there and didn't pitch the ball, it's going to be 1st and 10. And I don't know that we want to make a habit of tossing over people's heads, but at that point, he's just trying to make a play. And we do, in our offense, tell those quarterbacks that if there's an opportunity to pitch it to your running back, and those guys should keep good pitch relationship. But he had pitch relationship. He was a couple yards behind him, but just as he's getting tackled and we toss the ball, it was going forward, and he was able to run right through it. But that's what my grandma used to say: if dog rabbit. If we block the guy we're supposed to and we don't bust the assignment, maybe he just gets tackled or he runs for a few more yards and doesn't pitch the ball, or runs beyond the pitch key and pitches the ball backwards. Just kind of a series of unfortunate events, as they say. And then we had a punt. We had a 14-yard punt. They drive it down. They convert on 4th down to I guess a couple of times in that drive to get it down to the 1-yard line and beat us. So it was a really aggressive play. I like that our
did a good job completing some passes. The one he'd like to get back is the one down the goal line, the boot play that he overthrew the tight end. But he had a good game throwing the ball, and he ran the ball really hard. And so it's just one of those things. It's one of the breaks of the game.
A quick question, Coach. The right guard for Troy, Daniel King, 6'5", 335. Is he like an NFL prospect?
Oh, I think they got a few NFL prospects on their team. He might be. I don't know. I'm not in anybody's draft rooms or anything like that. But I think he's a tremendous football player. But he's not the only one. And that's a big guy. I'm just glad I don't have to feed him groceries at my house. I'd go broke. But
Thanks.
He's a good player.
Thanks, Coach.
We'll go to Sal.
Hey, Coach. I hope you're having a good one. Question on Tyrell. How do you think he handled his playing time against Boston College, and will you foresee his role against Troy on Saturday?
I thought T-Rob did a great job. And to come out of that injury that he had and play with the confidence that he did on Saturday was just I was really, really proud of him. And the more he plays, the more he'll get to play. And obviously, he didn't play every game of or every snap of the game. We played him in spots, and he made a really nice catch on the wheel route. Had some good runs. What I anticipate and hope for is that we'll be able to increase his load this week and in the weeks to follow, where he just becomes a guy that is in the condition that he needs to be in physically to be able to play an entire game. But when you've had an injury like that and you haven't experienced the pounding of a game and getting into game shape, it takes its toll on your body. You're going to be sore, and you're going to have other little things that show up and nag you as you start to get in condition. So what we didn't want to do was the temptation is, here's one of our most explosive players, one of our best players, and you want to play him on every snap. But had we done that to start the game, he might not have been there to make some plays in the second half. So I'm glad he's back out there. Our team's really excited to see him back out there. Nobody more happy to see 21 on the field than Tyrell himself. So he's good after Saturday. Feels good physically, so we're going to keep pushing forward.
One more on Tano Latuli. He got into the game in the second series, I think. That position beside Leolo in that Mike position, how do you see that shaking out? Is it going to be a situational thing, or?
Well, he's a really talented football player and a freshman. So he played in our prep school program and was one of our best players in the prep school program. And so I think part of it, though you play in the same system in the prep school, there's just a lot more when you're playing on Saturdays in Mikey Stadium. There's more defense that's in. There's more you've got to recognize, and the game is faster. And so he's a really talented player, and I anticipate him playing more and more as the season goes along. As for the rest of the guys at that position, I think we've got a good group of linebackers, obviously Leo being our leading tackler. But Caleb Fortner's done a really good job. He's earned the starting position there and is playing pretty well. He had a couple of things on Saturday. The long run, the 50-yard run, he kind of just overplayed that. He's got to stay behind that one, and he knew it as soon as he did it. But he's a tough, physical, aggressive player. Really like him and very conscientious. But there's other guys there too. As we mentioned, Tano Latuli. There's a depth of guys. Camden O'Gara's played a lot of football for us. He's one of those inside linebackers. Adam Cash is one of those guys. Andon Thomas, who's a sophomore like Caleb. Those two guys spent most of the year on the scout team last year, and they were very impressive as we watched those guys go through the season last year, and felt like both those guys were going to be productive players for us. So I think Andon's going to be a good player. Hamilton Baker, who came off an injury from last year. He's playing some special teams, not as much on defense, but there's some guys there at that position we feel good about, and a couple of young guys too that I think in the future are going to be guys that we'll be able to count on for contributions. So we'll see how that shakes out. I think as these guys like Tano get more experience and become more comfortable, we're probably going to see more of them in the game at linebacker and be able to spell guys like Leo who play most of the game. And you hope the same for other positions too. Jimmy Charlo played they played 70 snaps on Saturday, and I think he played all but 2 of them. And Jimmy's having a good year, and he's playing really well. But 70 snaps is a lot, so you'd like to get some other guys to maybe spell him a little bit, teach him to play. One, if something happens to Jimmy and you got to have somebody else in the game, it's not their very first snaps. But as we go through the season and in seasons to follow, you got guys with some game experience, and that's certainly important too for the future of the program. So that's just 2 positions, but I think throughout our roster and as you look at what we've done so far, there's been a lot of positions where there's been multiple guys that play, and so I'm glad to see Tano in there. Frankly, I think he's going to have a really good career here, and I think he's a very talented player, and so hopefully we'll continue to keep bringing him along.
Thanks, everyone.